Hello everyone, my name is Mr. John Mahlangu. I'm a lecturer at TVET Nkangala College. I'm lecturing ECDE level 2. Today it's a continuation of our previous lesson. We started by introducing semiconductors. From our previous lesson, we learned about semiconductors, properties of a semiconductor, intrinsic and extrinsic semiconductor, impurity atoms, N-type and P-type semiconductor. We also learned more about the majority and minority charges carrier. I'm introducing Module 4, PN Junction. It is a continuation from our previous lesson. On completion of this module, you will be able to explain the formation of a PN junction and its depletion layer, explain the voltage, explain how a voltage is applied across a PN junction, explain the limitation in the operation condition of a PN junction. If they ask you what is a PN junction, from our previous lesson we learned about the P-type semiconductor, we learned about the N-type semiconductor. On our module 4, we are introducing a combination of them both. Semiconductors are of no use when they are working alone. They need to be combined for a greater use. A PN junction is a combination of P-type semiconductor and N-type semiconductor, separated by a junction or a potential barrier in between. I will explain further what is a barrier, a potential barrier and a junction as we move forward. For now, let me demonstrate to you the formation of a PN junction. In a PN junction, on a P region has holes as majority charge carrier and negatively charged impurity atoms called negative ions. Remember, on our previous lesson, we made mention of a P-type and an N-type semiconductor. This is just a demonstration. I hope you are having a pen and paper at home to take down the notes, because this is an important part of my lesson. This side is a P-type. This side is an N-type. N-type semiconductor. If you can remember, I told you that the P-type semiconductor are made of trivalent impurity atoms, and the N-type semiconductor are made of pentavalent impurity atoms. The red dots will represent electrons. And the black dots will represent holes. In this case, on the P region has holes as majority charge carrier, and on the N-type has holes, has electrons as what? As a positive charge carrier. So in the formation of a PN junction, since well I've told you that a P-type and N-type are not useful when they are working alone, you need to combine the two. When you combine the two, you introduce a junction in between here, in between the two. The ions, they are called negative ions because they are formed due to a loss on a valence electron. If you can remember from our previous lesson, we explained what are valence electrons, what are covalent bonds. N region has free electrons as majority charge carrier, positively charged impurity atoms called positive ions. This is the demonstration that I am reading from the slide now. Going forward with our lesson, at a junction, positively charged electrons from N region jumps to P-type region, and negatively charged holes at P-type region jumps to N-type region. This process is called diffusion. To explain this further from my board here, what they are saying is that at this portion here, in the middle of the two semiconductors, the positive charge from electrons will jump to the N-type position, will jump to the P-type position. And the negative charge from the P-type will jump to the N-type position. And this process is called diffusion. Diffusion. Please take note of this explanation because it usually appears on your exam paper. During the process, electric field is also created. And knowing from our previous lesson, electric field goes from N-type to the P-type. If they ask you what is the direction of electric field in an PN junction, you'll explain that the direction of electric field is from the N-type to P-type. Going forward with our lesson, the positive charge on the N region prevents the hole from crossing from P-type to N-type. After the process of diffusion, the positive charge from the N-type, after it has crossed to the positive to the P-type, and the negative charge from P-type after crossing to the N-type, only the ones near the junction will cross. Only the ones near the junction will cross, and there will be a layer here. There will be a layer. For a better illustration, let me wipe my board. Yeah, for better understanding. There will be a layer here. A layer will be created here. The positive charge on the N region prevents the holes from crossing from P-type to N-type. The negative charge from P region prevents the electrons from crossing from N-type to P region. A barrier is created to prevent a movement of charge carrier, and the barrier is referred to a potential barrier. This is the barrier that I am referring to, going back to my board. This is the barrier I am referring to. This barrier will be called potential barrier. Try to read from this textbook. I'm using the Electronic Control and Digital Electronics NQF Level 4 Macmillan Publishers. A depletion layer is then created outside the potential barrier because mobile charges carrier have been depleted from the barrier. To understand this further, let's watch a 3-minute video. Here it follows.
Junction diode, properties and uses. Formation of the PN junction. The p-type semiconductor has an excess number of holes. Therefore, holes are the majority carriers of charge in p-type semiconductors, as shown. Similarly, n-type semiconductors has an excess number of electrons. Therefore, electrons are the majority carriers of charge in n-type semiconductors, as shown. The combination of p-type and n-type semiconductors results in a junction. This combination has many applications in electronic devices. When a p-type semiconductor is suitably joined to an n-type semiconductor, a contact is established between them and is called a PN junction. Formation of depletion region. The PN junction formed out of the p-type and n-type semiconductor separates p-type semiconductors from the n-type semiconductors. However, because of the contact, some of the electrons from the n side enter the p side. Similarly, some of the holes from the p side enter into the n side. So, at the junction, these electrons and holes combine with each other. The hole and electron neutralize each other on such recombination as shown. Therefore, in the region close to the junction, only negative ions are left behind on the p side and only positive ions on the n side. This results in the formation of a narrow charged region on either side of the PN junction. The n-type semiconductor close to the junction becomes positively charged, and the p-type semiconductor close to the junction becomes negatively charged. On either side of the junction, the region D becomes free from mobile charge carriers. That is to say, on the n-type side of D, no free electrons exist, and the p-type side of D, no holes exist. In the region of D, only immobile donor and acceptor ions exist. The region close to the PN junction is depleted of mobile charge carriers and is called the depletion region. Since on either side of the junction J, stationary positive and negative charges exist, there is an electric potential difference of Vd between the edges of 1 and 2 of D. This potential difference Vd across the junction is called the potential barrier, as it prevents further movement of holes and electrons. This combination described becomes a PN junction diode.
Now that we have seen the video elaborating more about the depletion layer and the formation of a PN junction, the following is a PN junction semiconductor with positive ions and negative ions. This picture was taken from the Electronic Control and Digital Electronics NQF Level 2. A question may arise that what happened when a voltage is applied on a PN junction? We have a voltage, a PN junction, when it's connected across a voltage, is called a biased PN junction. We have forward biased PN junction, reverse biased, and unbiased PN junction. On a forward biased, in this case, what they are saying is that let's power our PN junction. I'm introducing here a voltage source. Remember that a p-type has got what? Negative ions, and an n-type has got the positive ions. What happens when a PN junction is connected across a voltage source is that Let me quickly connect this here. Yeah. So this is exactly what they are talking about when they say a PN junction is connected across a voltage source. Going back to our slides, holes at P region are attracted towards another. Electrons will be attracted in the P region towards the positive terminal. The depletion layer is then widened to cause an increase in resistance, thereby prevents currents to flow through the junction. What they are saying from our slides is that when a voltage supply is connected this way, we have changed the polarities. In this case, the positive electrons from the N-type region will be attracted towards the end of the N-type semiconductor. And on our P side, negative charges from the holes will also be attracted from the far side of the semiconductor towards the end. In this case, the depletion layer, our depletion layer here, our depletion layer will be increased. Our depletion layer will be increased. When our depletion layer is increased, even the resistance is become increased. In that way, our reversed bias can work as a what? As an insulator, because of no electricity can flow through this type of a PN junction. This type of a PN junction, it's a what? It's a reversed biased junction. Now we get to an unbiased PN junction. An unbiased PN junction is a PN junction at which no external voltage source is connected. A potential barrier stops further diffusion. In this case, there is no external. In this case, there is no external voltage supply. If there is no external voltage supply, our PN junction will return to its original state. There will be no further diffusion at the junction. There will be no further diffusion at a junction. Now that we have learned about the formation of a PN junction, just like any other electronical device, there are limitations in operation of that electrical device. In this case, we have lists of limitations on the operation conditions. If the battery voltage is above a particular limit, electrons at N region will force to cross over the junction, and in P region, holes will be forced to cross over the junction. The high movement will cause the junction to break down. This breakdown is called avalanche breakdown. Moving from our slides, coming to our board, what they are saying is that if an external voltage is applied, and you find that the voltage applied, it's higher than the expected voltage according to specification, there will be a high volume of electrons forcing to move from one side to another. There will be a high volume of negative charge forcing to move from one side to another. In this case, this junction here will break, forcing a PN junction to be dysfunctional. So that's one of the limitations in operation of a PN junction. Going back to our slides, Maximum forward current. This is the forward current that a junction can conduct. Every time when you make use of a PN junction, electronical component, you must look on your data sheet. Your data sheet has got all the specification. It has got the maximum current that you must apply on that electronic device. Again, the peak inverse voltage, the maximum reverse voltage that can be applied on a junction. The maximum power rating, the maximum power that can be dissipated at a junction without causing further damage. In this case, when they are talking about the maximum power, they are talking about the power that is allowed to pass through the PN junction. You do not need to bypass that power. And to find the maximum power, you get it by doing what? By multiplying the forward current and the peak inverse voltage. Multiply by the peak inverse. This is the formula that you must use in order to get what? The maximum power rating. That's the maximum power that can be dissipated at a junction without causing further damage. Now that we have learned about the PN junction, we're going to learn more on Module 5 about the diodes. Unit 5.1, PN junction diodes. A PN junction diode is a semiconductor that allows electric current to flow in one direction. The general purpose diodes are divided into three main groups: the low current, the medium current, and the high current. The low current PN junction diodes. On our slides, as you can see that the picture was sourced from Engineering 360. You can get it online and learn more about the junction diodes. At the top, it's a PN junction represented. That's what we were talking about on our previous lesson just now. The following one, it's a what? It's a schematic symbol. These symbols, you must know them. Coming to our board, these symbols, you must know them. These symbols, you must know them. This is a symbol of a diode. You use it whenever you are drawing your circuit diagrams, and you will also get them you will also be asked to identify them in your exams. The last picture from our slides is a real component appearance. As you can see, the stripe marks the what? The cathode. And the tail part is a what? Is an anode. This here is a characteristics curve of a typical diode. If you can look closely, from 0.2 to 0.4 up to 0.6 on our forward voltage, the forward current is roughly at a constant flow. The forward current is roughly at a constant flow. And at that particular moment, applied voltage must not be exceeded, otherwise the diode will be damaged. The point at which the voltage starts to conduct, that's the point at what? At 0.6. That point we called a threshold voltage. Again, in a reversed characteristics, when the applied reverse voltage is below a breakdown voltage, the diode current is small. The value is called the reverse saturated current. Let's go back a little into a characteristic curve. The region that they are talking about is the region from 0.2 to minus 10 in the reverse voltage. And when a reverse voltage is increased to a large current, the diode reverse current increases. The applied voltage is known as the break downward voltage. If you can take a look again on our slides, on the negative reverse voltage, there is minus 10 volts, minus 10, minus 20, and minus 10. The reverse voltage starts to pick up at minus 40. At minus 40, the applied voltage is known to be the breakdown. That's the end of the lesson for today. I hope you enjoyed our lesson for today. Please, for any further question, visit our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp. Everything that you need, you will get it there. Thank you.